Hello and welcome to Live Coding Happy Hour for this fine February 21st, 2020. I'm here.
22nd.
He got you.
Oh, man.
You're not thinking fourth dimensionally, Marty.
Sorry.
International Dateline, I'll get you every time. So, yes, it is. It is Friday for some of
good.
us and Saturday for others. Um, I'm here joined with my friends. Let's go ahead and get introductions in. Andrew?
Hi, my name's Andrew Albridge. I work for a Australian company called Budget Direct Auto General Insurance. I've been working on the platform for about 4 years. I was nominated as a 2020 developer MVP this year, and I'm really excited and loving being here and sharing time with you guys.
Chuck?
Hi, my name is Chuck Tomasi, Senior TPMM at ServiceNow. I was a customer from 2008 to 2010. Been at ServiceNow since 2010 in various roles and responsibilities, most of which revolved around custom applications, integrations, and the platform in general. And I got to say, this is the best part of my week when I get to close out the week with a cold brew and some ServiceNow code.
Oh, and I'm Andrew Barnes, a developer advocate in the platform business unit at ServiceNow. Been here for about a year and a half. Been working on the platform for over 5 years now. So we've got a nice team here. This is my last week as the sole developer advocate. So we'll be able to announce our developer advocate next week, and they'll be joining us on the show. Yay!
We'll do it right.
Yay!
There we go.
So let's introduce our drink of choice for the day. Some of us, it's a little early for libations.
Yeah, just a little. It's 7:30 where I am, so I've got a organic cold brew almond milk iced coffee. Not my usual fare, so I thought I'd give it a shot and give you a valid verdict at the end.
A new
the
rating.
show.
I like it.
Yeah,
He could have been up drinking all night for all you know.
Could have
I might have been. I had enough whiskeys last night to cover this morning. So.
What do you have this fine day, Chuck?
I went digging way back in the fridge. My wife says, "Don't take that. It's too old to drink on the air." I said, "Oh, no. No. This is the Merry Christmas, Happy New Year from 2019 from the Anchor Brewing Company in San Francisco. So I expect to have a rather festive holiday time today."
I have had that one. So I also had to reach pretty far back in mine. So I've got an Asahi here, and I'm going to open it with my little handy dandy ServiceNow
I love
opener.
that thing. I got some jealousy going on here, I'll be honest.
We need one of those at our meetups.
I bet. So we are going to be talking about, so this is a part 3. We started with doing automated running and checking of automated test framework suite runs. Then last week, we did automated publishing and installing and updating from internal application repos. This week, we're going to be looking at source control. So we're going to look at how you can deploy from source control in an automated manner. We're going to be looking at partial commits. We're going to be looking at the ability to do true branching and merging in GitHub, and we'll even sneak in some VS Code today. So we don't expect to do a lot of actual development today. This is still completely unscripted. We're going to be learning how to do all of these things live on the air here, but we don't have like requirements that we're trying to fulfill very much, other than we're going to add the action to deploy from source control into our flow.
I had a real live use case this week, Andrew, for the source control stuff. This is very, very timely, at least for me personally. because I've got a space on the expo floor where we're going to be doing real quick demos. People walk up, they do their thing, and I need to reset those machines very quickly. And it
Okay.
dawned on me, if you could pull that from source control, that's a reset. You could reload that same version over and over, regardless of what somebody does to that application. So you walk up, you build a flow, and I set it back as soon as you're gone. These APIs can do exactly that. And I thought, oh, that's neat. Now, I'll leave
Yeah,
the goodies for you,
absolutely.
but I have to consumerize it. But the proof of concept was I used a curl command, said, go pull it, and then use a second one to say, now go get the status and wait for it to reach 100%. When you're done, you're done, and move on. So I've got to
Awesome. And
build some
I
stuff.
have you tested to see how much faster that was than just uninstalling and reinstalling from source control?
I have not. That's a good time to do. And if you've got an API to do the uninstall, let's see what we can figure out today that might change my mind on how I approach this particular problem.
Yeah. And I just wanted to note before I turn off the video that I've got a picture of me in Orlando on my way to a developer. So I was doing developer meetup down there in Orlando, and I snapped a picture of me in Orlando that I'm now superimposed of in
I
front
love how
of.
the one-to-one scale is right. That's kind of frightening. Andrew.
I didn't even have to tweak it or anything. I just loaded it right before the show, and I was like, oh, let's see how it looks. And it's almost just the right size. Can see some of my shoulder a little bit.
No, your hair might be grayer. I'm just kidding.
It's just darker in that picture. So I will start with the desktop share and let us get rolling. Oh, this is something. There's no whoops here. This is intentional. I just forgot I was going to start with it. So we are launching, and the folks on here are the first people to get a look at this. So we are launching the developer site with a refresh next month in March. And I thought I would just give a little bit of a teaser. We'll also be releasing a teaser blog about this early in the week next week for developer.servicenow.com, the blog there. We'll go into some more in depth of why we did a relaunch and what's really cool about it. But this is the first look anybody outside ServiceNow is getting at our new developer site. And we are really excited to launch this. So you'll definitely hear some more about this in the future. I just wanted to pop it up there real quick and show you what it's looking like.
The safe harbor, some things may still change. There may be tweaks coming. So what you see may not, if you take a screenshot and go, well, that's not what he showed us.
That's not what it was.
Safe harbor.
Yes. So that is that. So we're going to drop into our instance, and we're going to start with our flow just so we can look at so we've been working in this continuous integration and continuous delivery spoke. Mm-hmm. That's not a mouthful of a name of a spoke, by the way.
AJB CICD.
And today we're going to look at this source control sub area, which is apply changes from source control. So we're not going to use this yet because we need to actually go put some stuff in source control for us to then deploy.
Mm-hmm.
So let's fire open Studio.
I was going to ask, do you know if this integrates much into the new DevOps application on platform?
So it doesn't integrate directly with the DevOps store app, but it is another piece of the puzzle that will work with those, right? So the DevOps stuff was having ServiceNow go do automation in other systems, and this is so these spokes are things that you could leverage in things, for example, like Jenkins could leverage these APIs that are behind these spokes for doing things like running ATF.
Sure.
So we've got some examples of leveraging a Jenkins build to deploy application, run ATF, get the results, then reach back out to ServiceNow, create an approval, and then do the deployment up to the next tier if it's approved and the tests passed.
Yep.
So while it doesn't directly integrate with him, there are pieces of the puzzle that fit nicely together. So in Studio, we need to create. So one, we need to attach this to source control.
Mhm.
Oh, did I already?
Yeah,
Look at
according to
that,
the
I
icon in the
did.
lower right, you did.
I did. Look at that. So sneaky. So let us
Also point out, notice in the bottom where it says SN_instances/Mandalorian.
does.
You've got an instance specific branch.
I do have an instance specific branch. So let's create an app file then. So let us create a script include, just because script includes are fun. And we're going to call this our utils. Let's submit that.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're
Very
going to
utilitarian.
It is. It's very, very generic. So I don't think we've showed this off yet on stream at all yet, which is you'll see the interface for doing your commit has changed a little bit.
A little bit.
A little bit. So I actually want to do something real quick to make it even a little more interesting. So we need another user. Do we have another user with admin? Let's check. I don't actually know if I do or not. Yeah, I got some users. We can be Rick. We'll be Rick today. And he's not locked out or anything. So let's switch to Rick.
You've been Rick rolled.
Do you have that on your soundboard? Because that'd be fun.
No, but now you've tempted me.
YouTube copyright strikes.
So I'm going to enter into the same application, and now I'm going to go and modify that script include. Hey, recent. Hey, do you see that message right there?
Yes.
Isn't that a cool message?
It says, don't screw with this. Someone else is working on it.
Isn't that nice right there? You can see, hey, there is another developer who has worked on this recently. It's not been committed to source control. Hey, maybe we should coordinate between us or something.
Call them up.
Call them up. That's really cool. I think that's pretty cool, right? So let us actually not so we don't get too confusing. Let us do a scripted API because I want a couple of different records in here. The remote login. So now I'm going to return back to being me with end impersonation. I'm going to fire Studio back up. Drop into my application. And then when I load this, so this is what I really wanted to highlight quickly, which was that I can see all the different users and their files and commit them if I so choose all at the same time.
Right.
So previously, you would have to, whatever the app state you were in, that's what gets committed. So it was all or nothing. You commit everything, whether it's your stuff or not. It's the current application state was what got committed.
And that little compare icon over on the far right says, I wonder what Rick was doing. You can let's get like a diff screen on this.
Let's see what Rick had done, which was there's nothing to compare because he created a brand new file.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So I can choose to, select just my stuff, unselect Ricks, I can come in and say, oh, well, we're not actually ready for these things to get committed. So we'll uncheck those.
Mm-hmm.
And now we say continue and we write our commit, which is initial commit results. And let us go CICD, this one.
So that commits it to your instance branch.
So we've got this instance branch Mandalorian here, which
You may
14 days ago.
You may want to do a pull request. If you happen to be, you want to, if you're doing multi-instance development, you could pull it to the main branch and then others can.
Oh,
help.
absolutely. But we only have one in there at the moment.
Yep.
So we're going to commit to Here we are. Not too bad. And then over here, sweet. So we've got a successful commit, and you can see I can go look and see that those 7 that I didn't commit are still there, ready and available for me to commit if I'd like. Oh, look at that. Updated less than a minute ago. So we've got just updated. So we can see that all of these updates that we put in here just happened 17 seconds ago. Yay! So we should be able to find, for example, our script include.
Mm-hmm. That's new in Orlando, isn't it? Being able to look at the different files in a source control.
No. The files were always in there. But what is new is I can actually here edit this now.
What? Witchcraft, I say.
So previously, if I did any editing whatsoever in GitHub, it invalidated the checksum and would not pull from this GitHub repository anymore.
Okay.
So that was a big drawback for doing anything outside of the instance, was that the integration relied heavily on that checksum. And if you made even the slightest change to this repo, it would, of course, invalidate that.
So the argument for that was we make sure that nobody snuck in here and did something bad, like, took sys class name tag off of this record. And now when you go to import it, it won't import. How are we protecting against dangers like that? Are we just saying, hey, you edit it, you take the risk?
So that is why we put that checksum in there initially, was that we were worried that our customers, who are mostly enterprises, were not ready to manage the overhead of making sure that the things they did outside of the ServiceNow instance were valid. So we did 2 things. We beefed up our checking on the import, and we helped grow the community such that hopefully that the folks that choose to do this are going to do it in a manner that is hopefully good.
Hopefully.
So we've added being able to edit outside of a ServiceNow instance through GitHub and through VS Code. And we're actually going to drop into VS Code here in a second as well to highlight that. So we've started to become a little more trusting and more checks on those synchronizations from outside sources. So I added a very simple GS log or a GS info, and I'm going to save that. Do not make edits in GitHub through the visual website very often. I usually use VS Code.
I don't think I've ever done that, but good on you.
So now, and that is not, for example, so that was a direct edit. So I could have done a edit in a a pull request as well,
Okay.
but I did not in this case. So we should be able to, over here now, apply our remote changes. And so we're going to stash those 7 local changes,
Okay. Which is what we've had since the beginning.
and we're going to apply the remote, and hopefully
We've got a comment on YouTube that we're kind of zoomed in on the screen and we're missing some stuff that's off to the right and bottom.
we
not
are
seeing
a
the whole
little
screen.
zoomed in, but I'm trying to stay away from anything on the right-hand side. So
Okay.
we're good to about the
66%
right there.
CO is what they
Yeah.
say.
So we're good to this this key.
And then down to your second ACL.
So we
Right.
are doing our typical application update here. Give us just a little bit more. There we go.
So it did the whole uninstall and reinstall
Then we
because you stashed. Okay.
we apply our stash changes,
Mm-hmm.
and now we should be able to have our
Conflicts.
what conflicts.
To commit this stash,
And
you must
how-
address all problems.
And how do I do that?
I don't know. Hoping it'll say something about these problems. Manage stashes.
What
Oh,
what do you want me to do? I assume it'll just error the same way. I don't know how to
Probably.
actually like do anything with that.
yeah.
Well,
We're gonna
even
find out.
still, so that stashing wasn't really the thing we were trying to highlight. So I'm not probably going to spend too much time on that. Though I now have to go learn what that is. So as you can see, I was able to retrieve that edit from GitHub locally.
We just
into
have a
my
stash that
instance.
isn't doing anything. We didn't stash this utils script include, so that's not the conflict.
No, we didn't. So
Okay.
or maybe it was committed, so I wouldn't
Right,
have been
so-
able to edit it.
Right.
I wonder if it caused some change. So all this is new. um, where so I'm not exactly sure why it would throw that error. But I'm going to look into it because that is a little troubling.
Yep. Yeah,
But
it's not just the error. It's what am I supposed to do to resolve
yeah,
it?
I don't know how to resolve it. So I know how to look at the stash here. But I'm assuming I will have to go and actually dive into the table where these are stored and do something special, because this
Could it be in your update history?
Or yeah, there was a view history in there too. I haven't dig too far into that yet. Nope. Next one down after that.
oh yeah, from the stash history here.
There.
Yeah, it says I
Let's just
did the
what
commit.
you did, but yeah, it doesn't really have the
Doesn't have the error or anything from
Right.
that stashing and deployment.
cursors, I say.
So the definitely the interesting bit is that here in my GitHub repository, I can now do more traditional GitHub things with my ServiceNow files that have been stored in this repository. So that means that I can now do things like feature branches and merging outside of ServiceNow. So I won't be limited to whatever Studio can do as far as tagging and branching and merging, which was super limited previously. So now I can leverage any GitHub or whichever source control I link to repository tools to manage these application files, and that really unlocks a lot of power for us, right?
It does, but I also see it as we're still dealing with XML files, and not your average citizen isn't going to go in there and edit their script in XML. They're going to hook up VS Code to, like the VS Code extension for ServiceNow. Then you're looking at the JavaScript in your scripts, not the JavaScript in your XML in your. So I don't know that I would do that on a regular basis, but it's nice to have. Now, if there are other things that people want to do around version control and branching and merging, yeah, what you've got there is a little more sane for
Right.
the developers.
So leveraging VS Code plus GitHub integration is where you can start to get to that point of these are, while under the hood it is XML, what I'm working with here in this editor is just the JavaScript part of it. So the script editor box part. And so I can treat it just as a JS file, and therefore I don't have to worry about all of the extras that are stored in the XML file, because I won't actually, in the rarest of cases would I ever actually come here and open up the XML file directly and edit it, because this is too easy to make mistakes here, right?
Yeah, we've all been there.
So this is way too easy to make mistakes. But just if, when, for example, we did pull up the script include and edit it. So what I'm doing in VS Code is I'm basically just looking at this part of it. And that is a whole lot safer for me to worry about touching. So, because I know what goes inside the script box, like I can deal with that part. So we can take a look at this Mandalorian instance basic. Let's go and pull down that application in VS Code.
Which is another good point. You can have multiple projects going in the workspace at the same time.
Yeah, multiple projects across different instances even. So
Very cool.
that the GitHub companion was one instance, and this one is a completely separate instance. So we have here, we can work on this, and this space here, instead of using the ServiceNow syncing in VS Code, if I wanted, what I could do instead is have my source control set to this folder and be managing things that way.
Is that going to sync all the XML or just the JavaScript?
It's going to be doing both, I think, the way they store the files here.
Okay, so our VS Code extension is smart enough to say, I'm not going to let you edit all of the XML, but if you hook up to GitHub, I'm going to be able to detect the JavaScript part and just allow you to edit that. I'll take care of the rest behind the scenes. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm going to have to validate that, but I believe that that's what we can do. So with some coercion, at least, we can do that.
Coercion.
So yeah, we're in VS Code now, and we can, add something else like, just error is we let Andrew type things.
But we're not going to say which Andrew.
Yeah, we're not going to specify which Andrew. So we can, still utilize this, and we've shown this at least once before, but you can go to the VS Code Marketplace and download this editor. We'll have some future uses for it as well. But so for right now, you can edit scoped applications in the VS Code editor, and they allow you to work offline and sync with a ServiceNow instance or multiple instances, as we've shown here. And so when I save, it's automatically going to sync, but I'm going to tell it to anyway. Oh, it says it hates me. Why?
Because you let Andrew in here.
Yeah, I let Andrew in here. What is the unexpected token?
Token dot. Do you see a dot?
I don't.
Oddly enough, it didn't highlight GS dot.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned about. Is it's not highlighting this one.
Oh, you're outside a function. I mean, this isn't valid.
Oh, I am outside a function. And that is the problem with working directly in GitHub.
It'll let you save bad stuff.
It will let you save things that won't actually be useful. So we need to tuck this stuff inside a function. So we will create a
function name colon
function
keyword
logs here.
And while you're typing, I want to point out at the bottom right is your project name. This is like the update set picker, kids. Make sure you're in the right project. I have edited and said sync, and it goes, okay. And then I go back to the instance and it's not synced. You have to pick the project you're working on.
That is
multiple
that
projects.
Is the correct point there. And
it's one of those 20-minute things like, why isn't my stuff saving?
And I'll actually adjust the screen size because I don't think
it's off the screen, right?
That everybody can see.
There you are. Good.
Let's see if we can sneak it in there. I think it might just
fit
just enough. And if you get enough room on the bottom, there's actually an update set picker as well.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So if I get enough room, there is I don't have an update set for this thing.
Sure.
Because I'm just working in a script app directly. But if I switch to something that does have an update set, there is an update set picker.
One of those global applications that us normal people can't access.
So like this guy, where's the... I swear there's an update set picker that will be right here. I don't know why it's not being there today, but
I'm going to take your word for it.
I've used it.
Okay.
But it'll let you pick your update set as well. So let us sync our project, and hopefully, did I still do the function
Error unexpected token.
I hate writing the function
what
format.
Line the token was on?
Do you need a comma after that function?
That's what I was thinking. Try it again. Save, sync.
There we go.
Okay. Somebody mentioned to me this past week that they said, I left the type off. Is that needed? I went, it's always been there. And it always matches the script include name, but he said it worked. I went, oh, good for you. I'm glad you were brave enough to try that. But it might be like the old gs.include. It's just not needed anymore.
Yeah, we've got 3 different formats for script includes in the script include table. And
yes and no, they're the same format. It just depends what's inside. Are you using a prototype and are you defining a class? Because you could just make this 3 distinct functions. So there's 3 different ways you can use it, and what you use depends on what format you put in there.
So we are now properly syncing over to our instance, which is good. We actually like to do that correctly. So so that was the partial commit, and we highlighted that we can even do. Why didn't it detect that I can do more partial commit?
There's a whole lot of success going on here, so keep drinking.
Yeah. Apply remote changes. So it thinks that I have made a change
to your script. Well, you did. You did VS Code and you synced it
so
back.
It thinks that GitHub has a new change.
Oh,
since
how did that get out there?
Something's wonky.
Go ahead and apply it. See what it says.
Let's give a refresh to Studio. Because there we go. This is what I expect. I can commit changes.
When in doubt, hit refresh.
So since we didn't have apply from the
now she'll compare. Now you can show the compare.
We could show the compare. Look at that. And then we open up the compare and we say, oh, look, we actually threw a function in there and wrote this correctly this time. We should definitely commit this.
That's handy.
Yeah, I actually really like the compare feature. I wish I didn't have to click to the second screen because I almost always only just want the script part, but I understand why it's the way it is.
Mm.
Added logs and function to be correct. So I've done my commit. But some of the interesting things that you can do over here now in the instance are things like a typical thing in a repository is to add, for example, a README file.
Ooh, yes.
And I can actually do that now. I can add things now. Look at my markdown skills. And like, I should probably like
Use some
in
markdown.
some markdown, like
There you go.
at least one thing to highlight my markdown skills.
It put a title in there automatically.
There we go. Look at that. I've got my markdown skills. So now you can do things like add human nice things to your repo with the README, and it doesn't cause a conflict because the README MD doesn't actually like do anything to your ServiceNow instance.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that was my next question.
So if I come over here and do apply remote changes,
yeah,
my expectation and my understanding is it will just I think it will just ignore the README MD.
Sure. It's uninstalling.
But we're live, so you know.
Yeah, who knows?
Sing a song.
we're doing this without preparation.
And we're drinking.
And we're drinking because that's what we do with our friends on Friday and Saturday morning.
Saturday mornings.
I was wondering if he's going to remember this time.
Normally when I have someone on, I'll shift my time early enough that it's India, and they're still in the same day.
Yeah. All you crazy Americans and your yesterdayness.
We're in the future.
He's in the future.
I'm in the future.
We're in the future because we can communicate with the other side of the world and into the future. So there isn't I don't expect to see a README.
No, where would he put it?
Yeah, where would it put it? Let's see if it's actually in my application though.
What? Where would it be?
I don't know.
Oh, you're looking to look at the sysapp.
I could actually just click this.
The scope picker?
Mm-hmm. That'll take me to my application record, and then I can.
All right, I learned something today. I was always going to sys under app.list and then picking the record, but that's nice to know.
Yeah, the little button is actually clickable.
And the one next to update sets takes you to your current.
Very nice.
Yeah, I actually really do like the what is it, the share item UI 16 developer, which adds a contextual menu to this and makes these bigger. So I had that on one of my other instances.
I don't see a README file in there.
Lots of good stuff in share. No, let's do. No. Okay. Well,
just must be an ignored thing. It's like, hey, if it's not XML, I don't care.
So you can't hide secrets in your apps.
And our expectation now is when I do a commit that it doesn't modify that at all.
Sure.
Right. So hopefully we can come over here to grab that same utility and So our expectation is that it detects that we actually made a change. Come on, buddy. And we commit, and it doesn't actually do anything to please don't kill the read.
If it doesn't, call that a bug.
And from an integration standpoint, you would not expected to, because we're doing a commit that should be updating that one file that we're committing and not messing with anything else.
Mm-hmm.
So README is still there. Yay!
Look at
So
that.
this leads to being able to do things like not just adding something like a README here, but adding a new branch that, for example, can hold test data or something for me,
Mm-hmm.
or any other artifacts that might need to be packaged with my application, but don't actually belong inside the ServiceNow instance directly. So I can centralize my application here in GitHub and add other things that are
I'm seeing
needed for it.
That's a game changer for Share.
Yes, it is, right?
Just think about it. Right now, you have to upload your XML update set. And then if there's any sample data or any additional information, it's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 separate files. You put that all here.
Mm-hmm.
And then say, Share, just link to this. And if I want a copy of that, I fork the repo and away we go.
Exactly. So that is one of the things that really makes this useful, I think, is being able to leverage lots of things that we're used to doing in GitHub with other applications and projects that we've been a little hampered to do in the ServiceNow state. So I can, like I said, I can create a whole nother branch that holds my test data. I can create a different branch that holds my documentation and instructions for installing and running it and things like that. And I could even store my ATFs in a different branch as a different app.
Would it be a different app, or would it, because it's in a different app, be in a different scope?
I would, if they were in the same scope, I'd store them in the same branch.
Okay, sure. Okay.
But if I have tests that don't belong in my scope, they could be in a different branch because they're in a different scope.
Mm-hmm.
And we're still, these are still evolving things. So there's edge cases that I haven't thought of, and that you, the developer out there who's building things, are going to come up with, and we'll figure out how to expand our uses now that we have this available to us.
Break stuff in new and exciting ways.
Exactly. So let us make a change that is not pulled down into our instance.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to add. Let's log in here real quick.
Couldn't you just change it through GitHub again?
So I need 2 instances to do. Oh, I suspect I could do it through GitHub, couldn't I? Huh. I didn't.
For the sake
of
simulation.
Yeah, for the sake of simulation, I could drop into my branch, go to our handy dandy again script include.
Poor man's editor.
Our very, very poor man's editor right here. If I was prepared, I would have cloned this repository locally and worked in a real editor, but I didn't, because AGB was not prepared for that.
Yeah,
and
try this at home, kids. It'll let you save anything.
So we're actually going to show I'm prepared. So I created a new branch for that commit, and I'm going to deploy that to my instance. So I need the name of the branch.
This opens up a whole discussion around branch management and things that go beyond ServiceNow, but it's assumed that you will have some practices in place already. If you're advanced enough to know about branches and merging and whatnot, you should know what you're doing at this point.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to point this to our instance. So I was going to use a different instance a moment ago, but we're going to do it to this one. We're going to get our app scope, which is, and is it by ID or scope name? I think app scope is the actual like name. This part. We'll see if it succeeds or not, which thing it expected. I guess I could go read the instructions. That feels just wrong though.
Yeah, we don't do that here.
Scope of it. So that could be, well, it's not the sys-ID for sure. So it's either the display name or the value, and I'm gonna vote value because that's what I would have done.
That's interesting because the API, if you go into the REST API Explorer, it says use one or the other. There's two separate fields. It says the scope ID is mandatory if you don't specify the scope name, and the scope name is mandatory if you don't specify the scope ID. So it's odd that this would have a different type of UI than a different way of exposing that API than the API itself.
Yeah, that is interesting that it is different. Oh, so I need credentials.
You do need credentials.
And I don't remember which one it's attached to, so we're gonna. Oh, come on now.
I thought you had a couple of basic credentials in there.
I did, but it didn't drop me into the.
You can find it.
I can find it. So we had this one, basic auth.
Now I want to use we as credentials.
Those are the best credentials. So I'll actually go this way so I find the right one. It's here. It is dev program. Okay. And so let's put in some passwordies. So now that credentials is right. So hopefully what we're going to do is deploy this branch to this instance. Let's see how that goes. We need to remove that. So that looks right. Save it. Run it. Run test. Go. I don't believe you, son.
Is that too quick for you?
That is way too quick to deploy.
No. It does initiate it quickly, but it's running
because it started it. So
yes,
it should be uninstalling and reinstalling it.
Yes, and you need to use the status API.
Right. So
wait for it to get
we
done.
looked at those previously.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about before.
So we looked at these.
But you need to
get execution tracker progress.
I think we looked at this before. You should get a data pill for progress ID out of the previous step.
We did look at that. So here is the progress ID URL that we would pass into a action to go check that status.
No, you just pass the progress ID, the one right above it.
Oh. Yeah. Parsed, not parsed. What does it accept? Probably
I think it's just the
parsed.
ID. So in your CI/CD, get execution tracker process.
ID.
URL.
Well, the instance URL and the sys ID of the execution tracker record, which is the parsed part.
Which is a nice data pill over on the right.
So, by
the time you write it, it's going to be done.
Oh, I'm not going to write it. I'm just going to reload and see if it's happy. It did not load the branch.
So if you go to that URL in your browser, does it show you the status?
I'm guessing it will show you the status. That record
So the change I made was a GS1. So that's what we're
Yeah.
looking for.
Right. It's not there.
And we haven't switched our branch.
Oh. Yeah, good point.
Let's reload Studio like completely. So no. What I'm not sure is if it actually can do that.
Did you push it to this instance, or was it a different instance?
It was to this instance. All right, so it's not showing that branch here, so that might be our problem.
Because this is almost exactly what I did from a curl command, and I used the master branch. So it should do the same thing. You should be able to pull from another branch than what's currently
So
loaded.
let's take a look at our repo.
Yeah.
And this will, and we have a branch, and we have it here. And it is available, but I wonder why this isn't visible
As
here.
a valid branch. Right.
As a valid branch. That seems like it should be. Here, we'll tell it to switch to master and see if that maybe, okay, yeah. Because there's nothing in master.
Right.
There's nothing
You
there.
didn't do a pull request.
Well, ideas?
Odd. Do you want to check the progress?
Oh, we could check the progress. I wonder what that URL actually gives us.
Exactly. Go back to the execution.
Can we actually like load this and just?
I'm guessing you can't. Well, it's an API. No.
No.
Well, you got to give your creds. Go ahead. It should give you back the JSON payload that says how much % it's done. That branch name does not exist in this repository.
So we're running into the same error that Studio is hitting.
How about that?
Which is fine.
We validated we can make the same error twice.
We have the same error. So why are we not seeing it here is what I'm interested about. Well, let's see when we create a branch.
Right.
What's different between that and the one I created?
That's a good way to do it.
Because, when you've got the ability to create one a way that it will detect it and one in which it isn't, compare and contrast is your friend.
Do you want to validate that it actually does recognize your new branch in Studio?
That is a reasonable thing to do. Switch branch.
And Andrew knew things. Okay.
Hey, wait a second now.
There it is.
It had to go and retrieve what the current branches are, but it won't do that.
And it didn't until I told it to do a branch operation.
That seems a bit hokey. It needs a refresh button somewhere.
That is interesting. And I wonder
if you rerun your flow.
If this works, I'm actually going to be unpleased. This will actually make me sad if this works.
Because now the instance recognizes the branch.
Right. But it should just go and check
yes, it
what
should.
I would think it should do.
I agree. 66.
Running.
66. So it is uninstalling the app, which means it found the branch.
Yeah. We need some way to be a little smarter about, hey, you want to switch branches? I better find out if that's a valid branch first.
So that to me is a legit bug.
That's a bug.
Right. That's a bug. Is the branch existed, but ServiceNow, my Mandalorian instance, didn't know it existed.
Right. Until
you
forced it to go out and look at the branches.
If only we knew someone from ServiceNow.
If only we knew anyone from ServiceNow who might be able to
file a bug request. Someone's.
Let's see.
You know people at ServiceNow. It's just a question: do you know the people who can do anything about it?
Yeah.
Do we have a warn message? We have a warn message. So we switched.
Yay.
We switched to our
There it is.
branch.
Yep, AJB show unprepared.
So
That
it
felt
was
pretty quick as
successful,
well.
but it's interesting that if you don't create the branch in the ServiceNow instance, ServiceNow doesn't know it exists and
Right.
therefore will fail. Huh. That is interesting.
Seems like a bit of a limitation that we should be able to overcome without too much effort.
Oh, I mean, even before I file a bug request, I can solve this myself in my flow, which is whenever I'm going to do a commit,
Mhm.
I can go and tell it to go create a branch and then remove the branch.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. That's not a good workaround.
It is not a good workaround. I don't suggest that anyone does that, but that's a, it is functional because that's what I did as a human, right? I went and created a branch.
Right.
Oh, look, it's updated its branches. Oh, now it works. I can make the machine do that for me until someone with more back-end powers can
quick question, how would you do that in your flow? Because all I see in there is the ability to apply something from a branch and get the
so that's
status.
the CI/CD spoke. I would actually invoke the create a branch API from a script step. So
go check the REST
is an
API Explorer.
API.
I don't see that as a CI/CD.
It's not.
That. Okay, I don't see that in the API.
But this is an API. So this create branch is actually the ServiceNow API is doing this.
Okay.
So I could invoke this from a script versus from the UI.
Is there a Studio API?
It is an undocumented API.
One of those.
So that's, I believe, all the things that we wanted to hit today. So we can drop back into video.
We went all over the place, but that was good.
We went all over the place today. So we went and showed in studio partial commits, committing branches, committing things not just for you but for other people in that partial commit, deploying with the spoke, which is also from the API, is driving that from the back end for deploying from source control to a target instance, the current commit for a given branch. So it can switch a branch for you, or it can just give you the latest from an existing. What I'm not sure is what you get back if you're trying to do a update from source, but you had stashed things.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you had changes, does it just ignore those and uninstall the app and install it with the new thing? I don't know. My expectation is that it dumps them. Right? That's my expectation, is if I tell it, go load this branch.
Yeah.
It goes and loads that branch.
Yeah, I would expect that too. It's not going to stash it because that's a function of Studio that says you've already got work here. What do you want me to do with it? But if you're just doing this through a flow or one of the REST APIs directly, it's going to do what you tell it to do.
It's going to do what exactly. It's going to do what you tell it to do, which is go make this instance have this branch of this application loaded. And it'll be like, yes, sir, that's what I'm going to go do. And it goes and does it.
There's definitely some new functionality that gives some flexibility. And with that flexibility comes power. And we all know the Spider-Man line after that.
Great responsibility from that. And we looked at VS Code a little bit. And we looked at being able to edit outside of the checksum in GitHub, which opens up some other opportunities for us as well.
That's pretty liberating right there for a lot of people.
Yeah. I know there's quite a number of folks in the community who, are going to be excited about that. This is all limited to things that you can interact with through Studio, which is for the GitHub integration that is limited to scopes. But we are looking at broadening that reach in the future. But for Orlando, scopes, partial commits, being able to edit in GitHub directly and through GitHub related tool chains.
And mid-server support. So you can do on-prem Git.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Absolutely. So that is true. So there is mid-server support for source control now, which does open up those on-prem scenarios, which are prevalent, right? So having your on-prem source control is a normal thing.
I think between the on-prem and the merging and branching stuff that people have been asking for the last 4 years, 5 years, 4 years, 4 years, I think we hit 80% of the population with just those two features.
So some really cool stuff in here. We didn't get to do lots of development today, but I think we showed lots of possibilities that we're going to turn into development. So the next time we're going to leverage these things to do our work on the show. So we'll be back again next week for more. Let's get our ratings in. Same order.
To you, Andrew.
Yeah. So my iced coffee, it's it's okay. Almond milk, I'm not a huge fan of, so maybe around a 3.
All right.
Not a fan of the almond milk. I get it.
No, I thought I'd give it a shot, but
you're making me jealous, Chuck.
Repurposing my CreatorCon 2019 Brew Ops glass from last week. Yes, I washed it. And I'll tell you, this APV in this feels a lot higher than 6.9, but the Merry Christmas stuff is going down nice.
That's a good one. I enjoyed that when I had it.
This is higher on my list. I'm going with a 4.5 on this.
Ooh, nice.
Wow.
So I don't have the cool shirt or the cool glass, but I do have the shirt on.
He's got the Brew Off shirt. Okay, I don't have one of those.
I've got the Brew Off shirt on.
I've got one of those. It doesn't fit though.
So we've got CreatorCon 2019 shirt on. My Asahi is it was decent. And we had some victories today.
You giving it the quarter point victory?
It's getting a quarter point, so it's a 3.75.
Nice.
It gets a little victory. Speaking of knowledge, we're starting to really ramp up our work. I know from our side here at ServiceNow, I know Chuck and I are furiously working on knowledge content and even making some changes to some exciting things that we'll share more about later. We definitely have information coming out through the developer blog. I know there's even some podcasts out there about the road to knowledge. Our next newsletter from the developer site, the developer program will have knowledge-centric content in there, advertising it, as well as we're going to try and do some things this year to include some folks who aren't directly at Knowledge. We will be doing, for example, a live code at Knowledge again this year. We did one in the last time we were in Orlando, wasn't it? I think it.
I don't know if. Yeah,
it wasn't last year, but it was. Yeah. It was either 18 or 17. Dave and Josh and I did. I think it was the 4 of us, wasn't it?
I don't remember doing live code, but I do remember doing the.
I know you were standing right next to us right before we started, so
close enough.
I remember the 4 of us standing right behind the stage right before we started. So I think it was Dave Slusher and Josh Nereus and I did the live code from 18 or 17, and we'll do that again this year. So from the Dev Theater, we'll broadcast the show, and we'll see what other ways that we can engage some of the folks that can't make it to Knowledge. If you can make it to Knowledge, you get to see Orlando and visit with
Hands-on.
us.
Yeah.
And do so. I know Chuck has got some workshops. I'm doing one workshop directly and a couple of breakouts and some theater talks, as well as I'll be running the competition in the CreatorCon area in the expo hall for you to come and pit your skills against other developers.
Quite literally, pit your skills. That's
little subtle
that'll give
hint
you a
there.
clue. Yeah.
Yeah, I think
I like that
I think I
play on
missed that
words.
one.
And Andrew, did you have any talks for Knowledge this year?
I submitted one, but I haven't heard back yet.
Oh dear. Okay.
Cough, cough.
That's okay.
I'm looking to get my son-in-law to Knowledge for the first time. Yeah.
Oh, really? Wonderful.
I get the family involved. he's coming along whether he likes it or not.
Nice. So that is a wrap for us today. Thank you so much for joining us. Come see us at developer.servicenow.com. Engage with us through the comments on the YouTube or over at the developer site and the blog. Visit us at the community chat in the community or in Slack, for example. So we're definitely around. We love engaging with you, our developer community, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, stop.